Ears and Beers, episode 50. What's on tap? Hoops finally wins a game. Football gets a nice transfer. But first, as always, I'm Wesley Uhler. He's Adam Crowley. This is Ears and Beers, the podcast. What are we drinking, Mr. Crowman?
I'm drinking nothing. I got so drunk last night. I'm still hungover. What is it? It's like 15 hours since I woke up and I still feel like death. So let's just get this damn podcast over. What are you
I
drinking?
love it.
I don't even want to hear about it. I don't even want
I'm
to
drinking.
know.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Profondo. It's a Pilsner from Hop Farm, and it is bloody delicious. So it's a tall boy too, which is good, I guess. I'll drink most of it for me and some of it for you to pull the weight here on the podcast. Sláinte, Mr. Crowley.
Prost. Is that your first of the night?
What's it to you, huh? Are you the beer police?
Ugh, beer.
No, it's my first of the night because I just got home from Indianapolis last night for the NFL scouting combine where I did nothing but booze and eat like a big asshole for 6 days. So you know how that is. You've been there before. We work for the same company. We've both made the same combine trips. It's a booze fueled football fest.
Rumor has it you talked to the world's slowest running back, Neal Brown.
You know what? Can we start there? Did you see WVU football stole my photo on social media?
I did. I don't know that you want any credit of anything linking you to Neal Brown. The guy ran a 4.72 as a running back
on a track where everyone's been running fast. I mean,
yes.
The 6'6", 340-pound defensive tackle from Georgia ran a 4.7. What are we doing here, Letty?
Yeah, something must have happened. I mean, what are we doing there, Letty? And, as shitty as that is for Letty, and let's face it, it absolutely is.
Yeah, he might not get drafted now.
Yeah, I think it's a long shot. It does make me excited about the running back position this year. Neal Brown was a fine college back, and he did bust a couple of runs once against, was it Kansas last year, then against Virginia Tech this year. But, I mean, he was really lacking a breakaway, game-changing element. This Lynn J. Dixon kid that they got from Clemson, he was their all-time leading yards per carry guy, a big home run threat.
Good stat.
Listen, I'm excited about not Letty, and Letty was good. Letty was fine.
Sixth all-time leading rusher in program history.
Compiler.
But I get what you're saying. Yes, he was a compiler. He was obviously a good college football running back, but yeah, didn't have that really. He's hitting doubles into the gap and off the wall. He wasn't really swinging home runs. And hopefully between Lynn J and between Tony Mathis, you'll get a little bit more of that this year. You know what? Like, one of us goes to the combine every year for work. How about this? WVU football. I'll start snapping pictures for you and sending you audio from the combine every year. Just send us some gear. Just send the Ears and Beers podcast some gear.
That's all we need.
You don't even need to credit us on social media when you steal our photos. Just send me a box full of swag every year and we'll call it even. A couple shirts, a couple hoodies. Some
Nico Markiel jersey.
Now we're
game
talking.
worn after he starts day one against the University of Pittsburgh.
I'm still going Will Goose Crowder, but there's our end of the podcast bit here early.
We're done. See
All right.
I'm gonna get some Z's.
Talk to you next week after we play Kansas State, the Big 12 championship or the Big 12 tournament.
Do you want to start with football though? Because I got some of the stuff that was said this week really intrigued me.
You know what? And you were texting me about that, so yeah, run with it. What you got?
They are not going to bring in a transfer quarterback unless they bring in a transfer quarterback. I mean, that's what was interesting to me, where Neal Brown said, look, we're going to let these three guys slug it out. They're all going to get a bunch of reps. And hey, if they're not running with the ball, if none of these guys take the reins, then we could always add a transfer prior to the summer session here. So he didn't rule it out. And that, I think, is an added motivator for the three guys. They all want to win the position, right? But they also, you don't want another guy to get brought in because it makes you feel like he couldn't do it. So
right.
I like that. I also like that Graham Harrell said we expect to score every time we take the field. And man, it's a little thing, but you know that's not the way the offense has felt the last couple of years whenever they get onto the field. And then I also like what they said about the defense. Both Jordan Leslie and Neal Brown said this is the most athletic group that they've got. You've got your whole defensive line coming back, and you got linebackers coming back, and you've got athletes on the back end. They've played well defensively anyway these last couple of years
They have.
without maybe being the most athletic. They now buy into having these athletes. So I feel more positive about the program today than I did on Monday. And hey, that's not saying much, but it's saying something.
Yeah, and I guess right whenever your coaching staff or at least the head coach, the DC, the OC do a press conference when you haven't heard from them in a little while, I would hope that would be the case, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if we were sitting here this week and saying, "Did you hear those guys speak earlier in the week? They don't have a clue what's going on." You're right. You got to take all that cautious optimism with a grain of salt, but it's better to be there and at least feel like they're saying and doing the right things than, these guys don't have a clue. And that, you know what, I'm glad I agree with what you hit on there, but the first thing you said about the quarterbacks was what stood out to me too. Like, what I'm really looking for, and it'll be what, because this was the first week of spring ball, so it's 6 weeks, correct? Leading up until the spring game at the end of April, I believe it's 6, 7, 8 weeks, something like that. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it's
I
6.
don't think they actually start practicing till next week.
That's right, because they had the King of the Climb stuff this past
Right.
week, and just getting the guys back in the swing of things, some weight room sessions and that kind of stuff. Yeah, my biggest takeaway from the press conference and up until April 23rd when we have the spring game and we can see some of this. And again, I'll plug it. We'll be down in Morgantown, Crowley and I with our families doing some tailgating. Slide into our DMs if you want. We'll be in the blue lot somewhere, and it shouldn't be crazy hard to find. But if you're going to be out there, let us know. Let's drink a beer and put some names to some faces. Between now and then, I want a quarterback to emerge. That's
Yeah.
that's the one thing that it's spring ball. Everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. Everything's going to be optimism. But what I want is for us to get to April 24th, the day after the spring game, and we're recording this podcast and we're saying, yeah, you know what? Over the last 6 or 7 weeks, from what we've seen, from what we've heard, from what, people connected to the program are saying, from what the coaches are saying, it's Nico or it's Will. That's what I want over these next 6 or so weeks.
Yeah.
That's what I want from spring ball is I want a quarterback to emerge, because if we get to the end of the spring game, if we're sitting here on April 24th and we don't know who the starting quarterback still is going to be against Pitt, barring injury or something crazy like that, I don't think that's a great place to be.
No, you can't be in a position where you are rotating quarterbacks at any point this season unless there's injury. You can't have it happen. You can't go in and say, we think that we've got two good quarterbacks and we're going to let them. No, you can't have it happen. You saw a little bit of that this year, but you can't have it where you've got Goose Crowder who plays, the first half against Pitt and then throws an interception. And then, okay, now you got Nico. And then
Right.
you got the fans losing their minds because every time one guy does something wrong, you want the other. No, you can't have that. That's not a way to succeed. It's not going to instill any confidence in your program. You can't have that happen. I think that's well said by you. You need to have an idea at least, or narrow it down at the very least by the end of this spring practice. It's also interesting Wyatt Milam's going to move to left tackle. We had talked
Yeah.
about that before.
Yeah.
Brandon Yates moving over to right tackle. I mean, it makes sense. Wyatt Milam's the better player. You're going to face the better pass rushers over there. The other thing, and this could be coach speak, it could be BS, but they like the competitiveness of this group. All the coordinators talked and all the coaches talked, and it really seemed like Neal Brown was optimistic about the guys that they had here.
Yeah.
Jordan Leslie too. And they also talked about Chandler Semedo, and there's no hard feelings there. And the more I thought about it, Wes, that loss is I don't know how big of a loss it is, because Neal Brown said we didn't expect to get him back. And then whenever he said he was coming back, we were shocked by that. And it's not like it was a dead recruiting period since you found out. They haven't been running drills. It's not like they had in pencil. Oh, we need Chandler Smato to be the
Right.
guy this year.
Right.
This is how we've been working it. No, they didn't change their plan one bit. And now is whenever stuff starts going. So I don't think it's going to be that big deal. They got that Syracuse transfer. I think they'll be okay.
There's a lot that plays into that. Listen, I can go either way on this. I don't think you can ever polish, put shine on, thinking you're going to have your leading tackler from the previous season come back, and he doesn't. That being said, I agree. There's certainly more substantial losses that could have happened to the defense. And when we found out, when JCS wrote that 4-paragraph love letter to Mountaineer Nation in January, we were all surprised that he was coming back. It did feel like the cherry on top of the sundae that was, getting Stills back.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I don't think it'll be. Listen. I'm an emotional guy. I cut on the microphone in our studios at iHeart a couple weeks ago and rambled for 20 minutes about a transfer. There's a cumulative effect there where we've seen so many of these guys leave the program, and it was like, JCS, I think, was one of the guys that we didn't think we had to worry about after what he posted in January. That plays into a lot of different factors there. But I think you're right. Listen, he was not going to make or break the defense. Stills and Messidor are going to make or break the defense. If they're able to replace Sean Mahone and a die, that's going to make or break the defense in the secondary. I liked what Neal Brown said there. I did. He's never going to. College coaches are very rarely going to throw kids under the bus. That's just not what they do.
No.
Mike Krzyzewski does that from time to time, but college coaches aren't going to throw kids under the bus. But I'm with you. I think whether you're fully still trusting the climb, whether you want Neal Brown out, or whether you're somewhere like us and you're in between, I think that is something that has clearly been a message for the 3 years, and I think you're seeing it resonating, that they just want compete. They want competition everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's the quarterback position, doesn't matter if it's on defense. They want competition everywhere. They don't want anybody feeling like they're walking into spring ball and they've already got their role solidified. Now, obviously, a lot of those offensive linemen have their roles solidified. The guys that I just mentioned, Messidor, Stills, yeah, they're going to start on the defensive line. But there's a balance there. You want to create that atmosphere of competition where every day guys feel like they have to earn it and they have to prove it. And I do think, again, whether you love Neal Brown, whether you want him out, or you're somewhere in between, I do think you have to admit that they've at least done a good job of fostering that culture over the last 3 years.
Yeah, and it does sound like they've got guys that they know want to be there now and that are really competitive in the weight room in this climb event thing, whatever it was that they did. They think they've got the guys that are going to fight their tails off. And, that's what you need at West Virginia. I mean, that's how you win at a program like this. You get guys who buy in and play their hearts out for the state, as corny as it sounds, and for the program, and you play above sea level a little bit and you develop, and that's the goal. That's what you need to have happen. And it also helps the defense whenever you can kick the ball through the end zone.
Great transition. I mean, I can tell you do this for a living, partner.
I have zero energy. 52% of this guy's kickoffs, bang, touchbacks. Last year, West Virginia, 17% of their kickoffs for
numbers
touchbacks.
Guy.
West Virginia, one of the worst teams in all of college football in average opponent starting field position last year, and the defense was still good. What's it do to the defense when the opposition is starting at the 25? It's kind of a big deal. And I think that's, Neal Brown talked about that. That's a massive difference.
Yes.
If and he was intentional about it, made it happen. This is not like, this is something to get. I mean, I wouldn't ejaculate, but this is something to get excited about.
It's not it's not nabbing a former 5-star receiver. It's not like getting a Lynn J from Clemson. It's not like bringing in some dynamite safety who's still got 2 years of eligibility and is going to start on day one. But this is, you just said a minute ago, at a program like West Virginia, those are the things you need to win. At a program like West Virginia, where you're a mid-tier program, you're not terrible, but we've said this before, you're never going to recruit on the level of Oklahoma and Ohio State and Clemson and Georgia. That's just not going to happen. You've got to be buttoned up. You've got to win in the margins. Mm-hmm. And part of how you do that is you give the other team the ball at the 25 instead of the 35 every time you kick it off. That's 10 yards you're saving your defense. It doesn't sound like much, but it is. You have to be buttoned up. You have to win in the margins. You can't beat yourselves when you're a program like WVU And, that's when Kansas State played their best football, Crowley, right? Under Bill Snyder, when Kansas State was like a 10-win team and playing really good football and taking on Oklahoma and A&M and all these programs that had way more money and way more alumni and fans and all that than them, it's because under Bill Snyder, they were always buttoned up. They never beat themselves. They won in the margins. They took care of the football. They played good special teams. And when you're not necessarily on the same talent level as some of these bigger programs, just in terms of your pure Jimmies and Joes, you got to win in the X's and O's. How about that? And yeah, bringing in Parker Grotehouse again. While it's not like you just nabbed some 5-star safety who was disgruntled at LSU or something, this is a move that makes you marginally better. And when you're WVU, you got to do the any given Sunday thing. You got to add up all the inches around us, and that's the difference between winning and losing.
It also helps your offense. I mean, how many times did West Virginia's defense get a stop, but then the offense then starts inside the 20-yard line? I mean, we saw it all flipping. Yeah, we see it the last couple of years. Yeah, you're starting your possessions deep.
That's a great point.
First possession of that bowl game against Minnesota, they're starting backed all the way up. I mean, you don't give yourself a shot. And so now, if you get the stop as the defense and the opposition's not starting at the 40,
right?
Your offense
they're not punting. They're not punting from the 40. They're punting from the 32 instead. That's extra space for your offense. Margins.
Right. You're not gonna. And we know. Listen, I know Graham Harrell's going to be calling the plays, but I'm sure if you've got a freshman quarterback, which they likely will, unless they bring in another transfer. You got a freshman quarterback. If it's the 8-yard line, you're not scoring points that drive because Neal Brown's telling Graham Harrell, listen here, we can't make a mistake. We can't F ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it plays in the offense. It plays in the defense. This was a necessary move, a smart move, one that he was intentional about, made happen.
Totally agree. Let's talk a little hoops. Let's talk a little hoops before we get out of here. I did want to apologize to the people. Tuesday night, I was at a brewery in downtown Indianapolis. I was watching the game against Oklahoma. I was fully planning on going back to my hotel and doing an instant reaction podcast. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I said I'm in Indy at the Combine.
Yeah, man.
I'm drinking beers. I'm having a good time. Why do I want to go back to my hotel room and rehash this misery? And to make it worse, Adam, Kentucky was playing at the same time against Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting at this bar, this brewery in downtown Indianapolis, and I'm watching WVU just vomit on themselves again. And there's like a couple Kentucky fans sitting at the bar. They're like, "Hey, man, thanks for Oscar. We really appreciate it."
Bloody hell.
And I just drank a million beers and drowned my sorrows like a good mountaineer should do. But you know what? I'll say this.
He's going to win the player of the year.
Just stop. I'll say this.
He's the best player in college basketball, and he played at West Virginia.
I don't. Should we just end the podcast right now? I don't want to. Maybe like a week or two from now, when the season's over, after the tournament, I want to do a bigger picture basketball, Bob Huggins, everything conversation. But I don't want to do that right now. I will say this though: it's been a pretty miserable season, especially if you just look in the scope of conference play in 2022. But at least Jamie Dixon still can't win in Morgantown, baby. We got that going for us. Woo!
0-10 TCU in the Coliseum. That is bad. I mean, we didn't do a preview podcast, but I had a good feeling about this one. They were favored coming in, and it didn't make sense from a matchup standpoint, but they had just played Texas Tech and Kansas twice, and now you're coming to Morgantown, and you feel like you probably locked up an NCAA tournament bid. You're right. You're ripe for the picking. So that was nice to see them finish the job and really lose the lead and come back and retake the lead. Again, this team hasn't quit all season long. I mean, they play hard. They're just not very good.
On the road at Oklahoma State, they quit. But other than that, you're right.
Yeah, they play hard.
And I don't know. It's always, listen, it doesn't take away any of the sting or the disappointment, but it's always nice to win on senior day.
Did you see Gabe Osabuoyen's the Big 12 Defensive Player of the
Year? Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. But
get out of here. Get out of here. He's Big 12 Defensive Player.
Adam, this is a fact.
Get the frick out of here.
If this is anything if not a fact-based podcast, all right? Co-defense. No, good for Gabe. Taz, second team, good for him. Sean McNeil, honorable mention, which I thought was maybe a little bit of a reputation thing. But
yeah, he disappeared. But here's how do you, if you would have told me before the year, Taz Sherman, second team, you have the Big 12 defensive player of the
tournament
year.
team.
Yeah, you're a tournament team. You're a tournament team.
I will say this, though.
Still
Hey,
might be.
hear
Still
me
might
out.
be. Who
Hear me
knows what's
out.
going to happen?
Hear me out. If you don't lose again, national champions.
You know what? And if you don't lose until the NCAA tournament,
Big 12 champions.
You're Big 12 champions, baby. They could do it. They could win Wednesday. Go win Wednesday. And then let's have some fun. Go
and
win
then
Wednesday.
Thursday afternoon, we'll get another crack at Kansas.
They've had them twice.
Yeah, well.
I mean, that's a stretch. I mean, but they
close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
I got nothing left. I mean, Wednesday.
Me.
Wednesday beat Kansas State. And September 1st beat Pitt.
Real quick, this is a promise.
Mm.
Wednesday after the Kansas State game, immediate podcast.
You're even going to get me on that one, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you're off Thursday, right? With your crazy schedule. Let's do it. Let's drink some beers and do a podcast Wednesday night. Weekday Crowley.
I'm never drinking again.
Until Wednesday. He's Adam Crowley. I'm Wesley Uhler. This is Eers and Beers, the podcast, episode 50. Get us on YouTube, Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I've been told we're on Amazon as well, too. Apparently, Amazon has a podcast platform. We're there. You come find us. And yeah, we won't be maybe pumping out 2 podcasts a week, quite like we do during football and basketball season, but maybe, still a couple times a month, we'll be having some conversations. And yeah, so you know where to get at us. Wednesday night, we'll have a reaction, and hopefully Thursday as well, too, because we'll be playing Kansas again. Maybe 2 podcasts this week. But at the weekend, I want to have a bigger picture basketball conversation with you. We'll do that this weekend, but that'll do it. Not that. Hey,
not that yet. We're not dead yet.
Hear me out. Just get hot at the right time. Just play your best basketball at the right time, baby. Woo!
You need Mr. Honorable Mention to take off. You need
less Alex Ruoff.
Lots of things.
Less Alex Ruoff, more takeoff from Sean McNeil.
Are we done?
We're done. Crowley's hurting. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could tell he is hung. He is overhung, folks.
I'm gray. Like that. I look like Jason Kidd. Like, Jason Kidd wasn't black. He wasn't white. He was just gray, and I'm gray. Like I need an IV. I need an IV. Even weed doesn't help.
No, weed helps everything. Come on.
You know what it does?
We got to get a weed sponsor for the podcast. Then we can call it Ears and Beers and Trees.
Hey, look at this. Archie's.
You got an Archie's Jordan? What?
Yeah.
Where's mine?
I don't know. Maybe we should watch it at Archie's on Wednesday. And the Pittsburgh peeps, come on down.
Now that might be a plan.
That might be a thing.
We'll put it out on Twitter if we do. I can do that Wednesday.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, this guy, he can't do it. He's got the drinking handcuffs on for at least a couple days to get out of the doghouse. That'll do it for episode 50. We'll talk to you guys Wednesday night. Hopefully Thursday, Friday, Saturday as well, too, and then we'll just cut down these nets and keep this thing rolling. He's Adam Crowley. I'm Wesley Uhler. This is Eers and Beers, the podcast. Will Goose Crowder, by the way, is going to be your starter Thursday, September 1st at Heinz Field against those stinking Pitt Panthers.
Transfer X.
No more. And here's to you, Nico Marchio. Morgantown loves you more than you will know. Whoa. I mean, look at you. You get a little hungover and you bail on your boy. Unbelievable. Let's go, Mountaineers.
I'm never drinking again.